All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. All right, man. Dillian Whyte gets excused or the benefit of the doubt from Teddy Atlas for performance-enhancing drugs. And the WBC gets falsely accused of doing something that it didn't do by Teddy Atlas. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified if we release more videos. Much love to everybody out there that supports the channel and the live streams through the Cash App and through the Super Chats. Thank you so much to the Patreons that come through, that watch the videos and participate in the series that we have that we're producing over there. Thank you guys so much. Now, let's get in this Teddy Atlas thing. Look, man, I've been watching Teddy Atlas's show. You know, they've got this new show for Teddy Atlas on the web, on YouTube, excuse me. And Teddy Atlas is a really interesting guy because I do believe that he really says what it is that he's thinking. And there's a saying that he who doesn't know one thing knows something else. So I have a profession, and there's things that I know in my profession that you in your profession and what you do every day might not know. But then there's going to be some things that you know in what you do every day that I don't know because I've never done it. That's not where I spent my time learning. So that's a proverb. He who doesn't know one thing doesn't know something else, right? Not judging anybody based on what they know and what they don't know, because we all got 24 hours in a day and we're processing information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But what Teddy Atlas does, and here I know that I'm trolling Teddy Atlas, right? I don't do this to YouTube channels, just regular YouTube channels. He's got a YouTube channel up. He's got a podcast that's put on YouTube. I would never do this to just a regular YouTube channel that's sharing their opinion. Teddy Atlas is a member of the boxing community. Has to be admitted as an esteemed member of the boxing community. He might not be esteemed by me, but he's esteemed by other people, right? Same thing I would say about Bob Arum. Bob Arum is clearly an esteemed member of the boxing community. Teddy Atlas might make if he's not already in the Boxing Hall of Fame, more than likely he's going to get in there eventually, just like Bob Arum would. So when he talks about, fighters and training and all that, hey man, he carries weight. So when he talked about Dillian Whyte, as we know, tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs in the lead up to his fight with Oscar Rivas. Prior to that, though, there was this bit of propaganda being tossed around by Eddie Hearn, saying that Dillian Whyte had been waiting 600 days as the mandatory. Now Eddie Hearn played this little trick of words, right? He said Dillian Whyte deserves to fight Deontay Wilder. The WBC is protecting Deontay Wilder from Dillian Whyte by not ordering a fight between them. That's what he said. Then he says he says this, and then Eddie Hearn also says Dillian Whyte has been waiting 600 days. So if you're just listening to him off the cuff, you hear Dillian Whyte deserves a fight with Deontay Wilder. Dillian Whyte's been waiting 600 days. Teddy Atlas obviously only listened to what Eddie Hearn was saying and didn't take a couple seconds to either think or do some reasonable amount of research to know that what he said in this podcast he did was patently untrue. So let me tell you what it is that what he said and why what he said was untrue. He was asked, they start this podcast off, a section of it, talking about Dillian Whyte. What do you think about Dillian Whyte testing positive performance-enhancing drugs? This conversation lasted maybe 8 minutes, 10 minutes. He spent about 20 to 30 seconds saying this. Dillian Whyte, we really rode for him hard on him being the mandatory, on the WBC ordering a fight with Deontay Wilder. We were pushing hard on him and he really let us down, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until all the evidence comes out. That was maybe 30, 40 seconds of it. Then he goes on to say, because we were supporting him, because the WBC had Dillian Whyte as the mandatory, Dillian Whyte was the mandatory for 600 days before they ordered the fight with Deontay Wilder. Let me repeat what he said again. He said, Dillian Whyte waited 600 days as the mandatory to get his shot with Deontay Wilder. That is not true. At all. Dillian Whyte waited 63 days as the mandatory from the time that Deontay Wilder beat his previous mandatory, who was Dominic Breazeale. Dominic Breazeale had been the mandatory for Deontay Wilder, I do believe, from around not too long after the Luis Ortiz fight. And the WBC I do believe that the WBC allowed him to fight Tyson Fury. And then Tyson Fury's rematch was going to happen. And Dillian and Dominic Breazeale waited a considerable amount of that time as the mandatory, during which time Dillian Whyte became the number one contender. But according to the WBC according to the WBC rules, that doesn't make you the mandatory. You can be the number one and not be the mandatory. So Dillian Whyte became the mandatory when he won the fight against Oscar Rivas. He wasn't named the mandatory by the WBC after 60 days. He earned the mandatory title shot in a title eliminator against what's his name? God dog, man. Against Oscar Rivas. So, but what's the problem? He tested positive for performance-enhancing drug. Now, for all of the very, very valid things that Teddy Atlas said in this podcast, and because like I said, I'm not gonna do to Teddy Atlas, because I'm gonna be talking about what Teddy Atlas says, because it's in my face now. It's like now he can just go on for a half an hour, 45 minutes saying stuff, here and there that is ridiculous. Right? Before it's just ESPN once a month. But now that he's on YouTube, dude, no, seriously, man, trust me, I am going to be saying stuff about what Teddy Atlas has to say. For Teddy Atlas, to say all of the valid things that he said in the rest of that conversation about he made a point about the media and how these media guys are, who are basically paid for by the promoters. And if they don't do exactly what the promoters say they're going to do, no, they don't tell them to do. If the media people don't do what the promoters tell them to do, then they're not going to get the support for their channels, because their channels are funded by those guys. Their outlets, their websites are funded by these guys. That is a truth. That's a truth that Teddy Atlas shared. But just like most things, you can have a lot of good in what you say, but if you spew something that is just patently false, then it's all for naught. He even exposed a good thing that he did, for example, in this particular episode, was he exposed a dive that was taken. It was incredible. If you've not seen it, go watch this podcast. It came out this morning. This is it's 9:35 on the 13th of August, 2019. Go check out that podcast. I think it might be the Fight Game with Teddy Atlas. Go check it out in the section where he shows a play-by-play of Otto Wallen, Tyson Fury's next opponent, knocking somebody out with a punch that missed him by 5 inches. He comes in, throws a jab that doesn't land, might have grazed him. Otto Wallen throws a punch, misses the guy by 5 inches. When you see it stopped, when they did a stop on it, you see his punch is this far from the guy. Otto Wallen's punch is this far from the guy's face, and the guy falls out. Now, him pointing that out is legitimate. But then he goes on to explain why, pretty much justify the fact that Tyson Fury's fighting him because that's the business of boxing. But just yesterday, he had an issue with Deontay Wilder fighting Adam Kownacki because Adam Kownacki took too many punches. So he's okay, or he can justify, he's not saying he's okay with it, he can justify Dillian Whyte, he can justify the Otto Wallen fight because, you know, that's just what promoters do. You know, they set up Tyson Fury, Otto Wallen. This guy that threw a fight and should probably be thrown out of the sport or put in jail for doing that, right? For setting that up and taking people's money who probably gambled on that fight, and it's completely unethical. You know, that's just part of the game. It's a bad part of the game, but it's just part of the game. But Deontay Wilder fights Adam Kownacki, a legitimate top 10 dude who just beat Chris Arreola for real. He's got an immense problem with that. He can bluster and go off about all kind of other crap, but when you actually have somebody that tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, he doesn't talk about the test for the performance-enhancing drugs for about 30 seconds and then goes off on the WBC for doing something that they didn't even do. They didn't have him wait 600 days. There was already a mandatory. Deontay Wilder fought his mandatory, and right after that, he fought 63 days later, Dillian Whyte, despite the fact that Dillian Whyte had refused to conform with multiple WBC orders, let him fight for fight for the mandatory title shot. And then in doing so, not only did he test positive for performance-enhancing drugs, he also used gloves that had not been approved by Team Oscar Rivas. Come on, man. If you're going to be fair and impartial, don't just kind of criticize somebody over here and blast him. If you're going to blast them, then blast them. I want to see the same energy here. The same energy that you used on Deontay Wilder, use on Dillian Whyte. The same energy that you use on Deontay Wilder, use that same energy on Tyson Fury and Otto Wallen's fight. Anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.